The Ashkenaz Festival, North America's largest celebration of Jewish music, arts, and culture, is happening at venues across Toronto from August 27th to September 2nd. Witness diverse musical expressions of the Jewish experience, from klezmer and Yiddish styles to Sephardic, Mizrahi, Falasha music, and much more. Go to ashkenaz.ca for venue and ticket information.
That's what it sounded like on Sunday night at Earl Bales Park in Toronto, at a community vigil for the 6 murdered Israeli hostages whose bodies the IDF discovered just a day earlier in a Hamas tunnel underneath Rafah. Forensic experts of the IDF said the 6 had been executed either Thursday or Friday with multiple shots at close range. Hundreds of people in Toronto turned out to sing memorial prayers, to hold candles, to wear Israeli flags like capes, and to carry posters of the hostages with the words "murdered" stamped on them. But the community also came out to support the family of one hostage in particular, who has become sort of an honorary Canadian, 40-year-old Carmel Gat from Kibbutz Be'eri. She was an occupational therapist and a yoga master. She was visiting her parents and brother in Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th when terrorists broke into the family home and dragged her into Gaza as a hostage, where she'd survived nearly 330 days. Her name and her family's story have been front of mind in Toronto thanks to the tireless efforts of her cousin Maayan Shavit, a Toronto resident who has advocated for her cause and for all the hostages. Shavit learned late Saturday night that Carmel was among the group of 6, and she couldn't believe it. After all, she knew Carmel had been seen alive, that she'd been teaching mindfulness and yoga to some of the kidnapped Israeli women and children, who were eventually released in November. And the family had been told that Carmel was one of the next ones on the list to be freed, even as recently as 2 months ago, in July, when U.S. President Joe Biden announced they were close to a new hostage release deal, until it fell through. While Shavit grieves, she's also furious at the 2 men she blames for her cousin's death, Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, for letting hardline politics trump the lives of the hostages.
You can see my shirt say, "Let my people go," like 2 bad pharaohs that holding our people. One physically holding our people, and one just don't want to open the key. Just give the key.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, September the 2nd, 2024. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News. Before she boarded a flight to Israel on Monday for her cousin's funeral, Maayan Shavit spent Sunday speaking about what Hamas did to her family, including other members whose stories are less well known. Her cousin Carmel had just returned from India when she was kidnapped, and she was at Kibbutz Be'eri to be home with her parents and brother for the high holidays. Then terrorists swarmed across the Gaza border, and they took Carmel's 67-year-old mother, Kinneret Gat, paraded her through the kibbutz, and then killed her. It would take the IDF more than 2 months to positively identify her remains. They also took Carmel's brother Alon, his wife Yarden, and their 3-year-old daughter hostage in Gaza, but the trio managed to jump off the truck and escape. Yarden got recaptured, though, and she and Carmel were taken into Gaza, where they were kept with other women and children until Yarden was released in November. Sometime between then and now, Carmel was placed in a group with 5 hostages. They'd all been kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival, including the American Hirsch Goldberg Polin. The IDF says they were all found in a tunnel about 20 meters deep, very close to where that Bedouin Israeli hostage had been rescued last week. Maayan Shavit joined me from Toronto early Sunday morning.
Our deepest condolences. I'd like to start off by asking you, when did you hear the news? Where were you? Tell us when, this all started.
Unfortunately, it actually, the way it went, it was pretty horrific, because yesterday around noon, I started getting messages and phone calls, not even telling me, asking me if I seen, the gossip news, that it's, because it wasn't in any official place yet. If I've seen that 6 bodies have been recovered and that it come with a list of people and that one of them is Carmel, I collapsed on the floor and started crying. And then I said, just a minute, let me call my mom, let me call Carmel's brother, my cousins, because it doesn't make sense that, everybody knows, but the family doesn't know, and we don't. And I actually called Israel. They were all in the rally, as they are every Saturday, and they didn't know anything. It was still rumors. Not even 30 minutes after the conversation with my family, the news actually acknowledged that, yes, 6 bodies have been recovered. Yes, they are of kidnapped. No, we do not know yet the names. So I knew that only around 4 a.m. in the morning I will get, Israel time, I will get the real information if Carmel is one of them or not. It was just devastating to learn like this, because it felt like the same way I learned about my aunt, Carmel mother, that we saw on Telegram, that Hamas were, put on the video and showing us her walking with her hand tied, and then another video an hour after that, she was shot in the head. That's how we knew. It's like the worst nightmare have been, it's here.
You only recently in Toronto had a birthday celebration for her. She turned 40 in June. And walk us through what you guys did at that yoga party.
After the yoga event that we celebrated her birthday, even though she was, mentioning it in captivity in Gaza, we said next time we meet, we're going to celebrate. And we're going to do a yoga celebration for her return. And I knew that I'm going to see her, I'm going to go to Israel and I'm going to see Carmel in the hospital. And then we're going to, we figure it out how she's going to get out of it mentally, physically, emotionally. We'll deal with it. But we knew. It's like something in us said, we knew we're going to get her back. And to know that she was just in the reach of our hands. They were next to the Bedouin, the Israeli Bedouin that was saved. They were still alive. To think that our brothers and sisters, our families, they've been suffering for over 300 days in horrific. No one can even start to imagine what they're going through or been through there. And to go that way and to be murdered in such disgrace and horrible way. Carmel was supposed to be the next one on the list when it was day 56. Carmel was supposed to be on the list now.
July 2nd. Yeah, let's talk about that. For our listeners, just because they may not have followed every single step that's what you did. It was announced when President Biden, right, in July, that they were close to a hostage deal, and that Hirsch and Eden were going to be the next ones because they had a close deal. What do you think happened that caused this to break down? Who do you blame?
Benjamin Netanyahu and Yahya Sinwar. Simple. Because Sinwar knows that everything could have been avoided if he only released them all. Benjamin Netanyahu knows that all of this could have been avoided if he only agreed to anything. Sometimes there are situations in life that not only you cannot measure them or compare them, you have to come to a decision, even though that you don't yet know the real consequences of the decision you'll take, but he could have brought 200 people back.
Did you see that President Herzog apologized to the families and said that we failed you yesterday?
But the only person that haven't said it yet since October 7 is Benjamin Netanyahu. He's the only person yet to visit anyone, to go to any kibbutz, any place. He's been, I think, 2 weeks, something like that, 10 days after October 7 in Be'eri for a short while, surrounded with security. But he didn't talk to anybody. He went there for show. Benjamin Netanyahu need to stand for trial for killing his own people, for destroying his own country. Because even if in the beginning I could have maybe, I didn't, and I will never, I could have maybe believed that he actually want to do something for it. He had so many chances to do so.
I want to ask you about your work since October 7th. You're not a celebrity before that. You're not like on the news, or, you have a normal job and you do normal things. And then October 7th happened. What made you decide to become their spokesman and work so hard in Canada to speak for the family members and trying to get them released? How did you decide this is something you needed to do?
When people ask me about that, I say I don't matter. I'm the spokesperson because they cannot be heard. I am their voices. I am speaking as Carmel. I'm speaking as Eden. I'm speaking as Hirsch. I'm speaking as all the because they can't. And we all know that if we stop talking about them, people, it's very easy to just go to your daily life, especially when you don't live in Israel. I always say it's so easy for us to just go to our jobs, disconnect for a few hours, not even think about anything, and go on with our life. It's very easy. But that's what the one thing we shouldn't do. Every minute we should say a name. Every minute we should remember. Every shower I take, I say, I don't think she saw water in months. Every time I complain about something so stupid, it's nothing. As long as we have kidnapped civilians, the life cannot continue. We are all still in October 7. I still haven't said goodbye from my aunt. And now I need to say goodbye. Also for my cousin. I don't know how to continue. I will not stop fighting because there are still 101 people in Gaza. And if we won't take them out now, I'm afraid that maybe 20 are still alive. Maybe.
Maayan, I need to know that our listeners may not know or remember, but in November, your cousin, so Carmel's sister, was released, and after 2 months, and her family
before that was released.
And so where are they? And she and her husband and your great niece, I guess. Where are they now?
All my family are in the center of Israel, like in Tel Aviv area. First of all, there is no house to go back to in Be'eri. I can tell you that until yesterday, when those horrible news arrived, we were all, we're fighting, we're smiling, we're going on, we're trying to heal. Yarden, in her nature, is a very closed and individual. So it's kind of hard of her. And now, immediately when this happened, we all said the guilt that probably Yarden have, the survivor killed. Alone, his father, Eshel, they lost the two women of the family. I don't know how they are now. I talked to them, the last I talked to them was literally before it was confirmed.
Is the Canadian embassy helping you, or the Canadian government helping you, or how the community helping you to get there, or nothing? First of the Israeli embassy, I mean. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, the Canadian government, not only, they didn't even mention once all the Canadian murdered. Once they didn't mention and did something of in their memories. So for sure they didn't even contact me because my cousin is not Canadian, I am. But if they don't even do to your own people some kind of memorial, I have zero expectation, from our government regarding this. And I believe that this week all the funerals will be. And Carmel, of course, gonna be laid to rest next to her mother in Kibbutz Be'eri. In the kibbutz she was born and raised.
I read that she was going to be starting a second year of her master's at the university.
Not Tel Aviv, that's why she was about to go back to live actually in Be'eri, because the university is closer to Be'eri, and she was supposed to start her second year as an OT. Carmel came back a week before October 7th from 3 months in India. And she came back like the rest of her brothers to join, as Kinneret always wanted. And it was so important to her that in the holidays, everybody are together. Kinneret was my mother's elder sister. So we all grew up together. We are a very close family.
You were saying about the Canadian government, and I know you lobbied and you went to press conferences and you spoke at rallies. What do you want, if anything, the Canadian government to be doing now, if anything?
I said it in the beginning, also in the rally, to stand up and say, I despise, terror and it's a terror. You better say it, because if you support terror, we have a problem. But you say you don't support terror doesn't mean you are behind Israel. Doesn't mean that you're not agreeing with everything that happened, because it's two different things. And Trudeau disappointed, the government disappointed. You didn't stand behind your citizens. You didn't try to help. You didn't. With such great power here in Canada, the biggest donator to the Red Cross just donated $23 million just before October 7th. They donated to the Red Cross. They had so much power to stand on the Red Cross and demand to bring us something, to check on our kidnaps. And it didn't happen.
And on about Carmel, this is about Carmel, not about our government. I know that many people will have known that she was, when other hostages came out, they told us and the family something beautiful that she tried to do to keep their spirits up. Do you want to share that?
Carmel is an enthusiastic and actually she's a master in yoga. She fell in love with it. Apparently, Carmel did yoga with all the children in captivity, in the tunnels. She helped them create a diary so they will remember what they've been going through, what day it is. She gave them from the little food. We all know that they received either one pita bread or, some cookies or dates, something like that. Whatever they gave them, she gave, from that little to the children. And, she did mindfulness with them, and she just kept the morale up, and How can you be so strong and do it after you saw your mother being murdered, after you've been through the hell you've been through, you know, and how can you be so strong? And it amazed us to know all this amazing information. But the group that was released, that were with her, she left behind alone.
I don't understand how she was then with these 6 people, 5 other people. Do you think that was something recent, or she was with them after they?
Because in that group, she's the only person from the kibbutz. The rest were from the Nova Festival. And we know that they kept everybody separate. And I know that she was with a group of mothers and children and elderly women that all were released. And she was told, that's what they told us, that when they left the room, they looked at Carmel, the kidnapped, the terrorist, and they told her, "You're next. Tomorrow you go home." Close the door, and that door never opened. Well, not toward Israel anyway. And we know that they've been moved around because of the bombing and of the IDF. So, but you have to understand, there were only 20 meters below. It wasn't even a deep. They were waiting for release.
Yeah.
That's why this group was together.
I send you our condolences and have comfort that everyone in Canada is behind you.
I'm not stopping, even if the journey of Carmel have ended. We still have 101 kidnapped that need to be home.
Well said. Well said. Bye.
Thank you so much.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily. If you weren't able to attend the community vigil, it was live streamed and taped, and now the recording's available to watch, and we've put the link in our show notes. Prime Minister Trudeau tweeted a strongly worded message on Sunday, calling the murder of the 6 hostages devastating and enraging, and he demanded the Hamas release all the hostages, lay down its arms, and have no future in governing Gaza. Meanwhile, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre tweeted another 6 beautiful souls taken hostage on October 7th by the Hamas genocidal death cult, murdered while in captivity. May their memories be a blessing. And he reminded people these same evil terrorists killed 7 Canadians and continue to be supported by the tyrants in Tehran, and he called for Hamas to surrender and release all of the remaining hostages. Our show is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman. Our executive producer is Michael Freeman, and our music is by Dov Beck Levine. Thanks for listening.
The Ashkenaz Festival, North America's largest celebration of Jewish music, arts, and culture, is happening at venues across Toronto from August 27th to September 2nd. Witness diverse musical expressions of the Jewish experience, from klezmer and Yiddish styles to Sephardic, Mizrahi, Falasha music, and much more. Go to ashkenaz.ca for venue and ticket information.